Wind Rises. It's pretty sad to know that this will be the last animated feature made by one of the biggest legends in animation alive, Hayao Miyazaki, the man behind such influential and revolutionary films like My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, and more. Not only are they some of the highlights of Japanese animation, but also some of the most imaginative movies ever created. Even if he's just retiring and will be working on other small stuff like shorts or manga, it's too bad that we might never see his magic on the big screen again. But back onto The Wind Rises, will this soar as high as the other Studio Ghibli films? Or is this just one big plane crash? Let's find out! By the way, I've trained myself to say Ghibli instead of Ghibli for you guys. You're welcome. The story. There are three sides of Studio Ghibli that everyone knows about. The first being the more whimsically upbeat side, like My Neighbor Totoro or Kiki's Delivery Service, the mystical fantasy side that has a bit of both light and dark tones, like Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle, and the other being the more realistically dark side, like Grave of the Fireflies. The Wind Rises can be categorized more in the last one. The movie is loosely based on the life of Japanese airplane designer Jiro Horikoshi, from the start of the 20th century all the way up to the beginning of World War II. A time when life in Japan was tough and the economy was pretty bad. Not to mention that it was a time when Japan was in the center of some of the biggest wars in history. Of course, you can counter-argue what I just said, since there are some lighthearted moments like in the dream sequences, so it can't be as dark as Grave of the Fireflies, right? Well, true, but what makes this Ghibli film heavier than the others is the theme of how something that's beautiful can easily be corrupted. Since it is set during the war times, Jiro has no choice but to make warplanes. However, he didn't think of making the toughest planes that can destroy anything in sight in the name of his country. He was designing planes because he just wanted to make something beautiful. In fact, he feels bad that his creations are used as instruments of war. Also, the theme doesn't just stay on airplanes, but also other parts of life as well, like love. Sure, people normally see love as a true symbol of beauty, but the movie actually shows a way that love can be the corruption of something beautiful in itself. It represents the life of a nice man just doing the job he's passionate about and helping the one he loves, but shown in a very artistic yet deeply poetic style. What else can you expect from the talents of Mr. Miyazaki? The animation. I always believe that the true signature of a Studio Ghibli film comes from the animation, and The Wind Rises is no different. The design is practically the same kind you'd find in the others. A more simple anime look that doesn't go into a lot of details, with backgrounds that have a more painterly look, along with some realistically smooth Japanese-style character animation. However, there's always that one unique feature in their movies that would easily differentiate themselves. In The Wind Rises, that feature would be the airplanes. Now I know, Porco Rosso already did that, but this one did it in a more elegant way where, when you see a plane, it's like watching a bird take flight in a sense that's naturalistically beautiful. Not to mention all the largely creative planes that show up in the dream sequences. It's the kind of animation you can't get enough of, no matter how many times you see it in whatever Ghibli film. It always looks great. If I do have to give it one criticism though, it's not their finest or best animation displayed. It doesn't go out to push any of the boundaries they've created and show the true capabilities of imagination like in Spirited Away or something like that. So the visuals won't blow people away as much as their previous works. But even with that, the animation is still a true sight to behold. The characters. There are several characters that are present in here, but they all revolve around the main character of the movie, Jiro. He's a kind and caring man who likes to help people out in need. Even during Japan's tough times, he always stays optimistic and just wants to work on what he loves, which is designing airplanes. The way that Jiro does it though is more like an artist, where he doesn't want to make planes for a specific function, he just loves to create them. The other characters don't really have that big of a role as Jiro, but they do go and help him out in his life, even if their roles do end up being pretty obvious. Some, like Hanjo, would be Jiro's buddy and co-worker despite having a more pessimistic attitude, while Naoko, well, to not spoil too much of the film, she's Jiro's love interest and would do anything to be by his side. What's funny is that there are even some characters that have an influence from Pixar. Kurokawa, the hot-tempered boss, is a lot like the small boss from The Incredibles, while the Italian plane engineer, Giovanni Battista Caproni, has a similar role to Chef Gusteau from Ratatouille, acting like Jiro's figment of imagination in his dream, who also guides him in his life. It makes sense considering Hayao Miyazaki's relationship with John Lasseter. The characters in general feel like they could have existed in Jiro's actual life, and they all give out a sense that's both genuine and sometimes relatable. Okay, let's be honest people, it's an Academy Award nominated film directed by Hayao Miyazaki. How the fridge can it not be good? The Wind Rises is a strongly artistic look at a man who has revolutionized Japanese aviation with the beloved animation that only Studio Ghibli can deliver, a deep and powerful story, and realistically human characters. At this point, I don't have to mention that this is a recommendation to Studio Ghibli fans because they all know very well that this is a must-watch for them. Not only that, but this is also something that major film buffs should check out because of its Oscar nomination, and for aviation aficionados, since it does touch a bit on the history of Japanese airplanes. I think everybody is sad to see Hayao leave the realm of animated features, but it's nice to know that he ended off on a powerful note. So there's no big surprise that yes, I'm giving this film the AniMat's seal of approval. Mr. Miyazaki, for the contribution you've done and being such a big influence to the animation industry, may I say, thank you.